All right, ready to dive deep. Today, we're tackling 3 Magic Words
Yeah.
by U.S. Andersen.
Definitely.
This one is all about, well, tapping into a power greater than yourself. The power to, really transform your life using, get this, just your mind.
Yeah, it sounds pretty wild, right?
Intriguing for sure. So to unpack all this, we're going straight to the source. We've got the audiobook version of 3 Magic Words, and we're going to break down all the key ideas, the really juicy bits together.
Awesome, let's do it.
Buckle up. 3 Magic Words kicks off with this idea of what Andersen calls a universal mind. Basically, it's like a subconscious mind, this infinite well of power that we can all tap into.
Yeah, and he even goes as far as to say that this is the same power that, Einstein, Buddha, all those big thinkers throughout history have used.
Okay, so we've all got this amazing power inside us. But how does it actually work? How do we, access it?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Andersen argues that this universal mind, it responds directly to our thoughts and beliefs. It's basically shaping our reality based on what we're projecting into it.
So you're saying our thoughts, they literally create our reality? Is that what he's saying? That's a pretty big claim. Does he back that up with anything?
He does. He actually shares a bunch of stories and examples. One that really stuck with me was about this woman who cured her wart just by rubbing a rag on it and really believing it would disappear.
Wait, so it wasn't like the rag itself that cured the wart, it was her belief.
Exactly. And there's another example, like this cancer patient who was cured by a thermometer because, get this, he was totally convinced that it was an X-ray treatment. So in both cases, it wasn't the actual physical thing that made the difference. It was the power of belief.
Wow, that's pretty wild. But if our beliefs are so powerful, why aren't we all, living our dream lives? What's stopping us from achieving everything we want?
That's a great question. Andersen suggests that there are these things he calls negative prompters. They're like these deeply buried subconscious memories of, pain and rejection that sabotage our thinking.
So they're like these little voices in the back of our heads whispering doubts and limitations, holding us back from our true potential.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The book describes them as weeds in a garden choking out the positive seeds we're trying to plant. And, they manifest in our lives as sickness or poverty or just general unhappiness.
So how do we get rid of these weeds, these negative prompters? Can we pull them out completely?
Andersen suggests that we can counteract them by consciously installing positive prompters. It's about making a choice, a deliberate effort to choose positive thoughts and beliefs, focusing on things like abundance, health, success.
So this sounds like where the 3 magic words from the title come in, right? Yeah. What are they? What's the secret? Come on, spill the beans.
Well, you would think so, right? But surprisingly, the book never actually reveals them directly. It's presented as this kind of metaphysical secret that you have to kind of discover for yourself through, personal exploration and reflection.
Oh, talk about a cliffhanger. So how are we supposed to influence our subconscious, crack the code and uncover this big secret? Any hints? Techniques?
He does delve into hypnotism and how it's, a really powerful way to access that subconscious mind. And he gives some pretty amazing examples, like how it's been used to, relieve pain during surgery and even cure some skin conditions that traditional medicine couldn't even touch.
So hypnotism, it bypasses the conscious mind, and then, boom, suggestions get planted right into the subconscious,
right,
where those negative prompters are lurking.
Exactly. But, he does point out that it's not a permanent fix. Those old thought patterns can come back. So it's important to keep cultivating that positive thinking even after you've, had those hypnotic suggestions.
Right. Makes sense. It's like any skill you got to practice. So hypnotism isn't a magic bullet. What about intuition? Is that another way to tap into this power?
Absolutely. Intuition is another way to access that subconscious wisdom. It's like a direct line to that universal knowledge, letting us perceive those universal laws, those insights that just seem to come out of nowhere.
It's funny you mentioned intuition. I've had times where I knew something, no logical explanation, just a gut feeling, and it turned out to be right. Could that be intuition talking?
Could be. There's times where you just, you have a strong sense of knowing. Even if you can't explain it, it could be your subconscious, sending you a message, giving you some guidance, some insight.
Okay, get ready for this. Andersen actually proposes that the physical world, the reality we experience with our senses, is, get this, an illusion.
Yeah, that's one of the most like challenging ideas in the book, but it's also one of the most thought-provoking for
Yeah.
sure. But he's not saying, that things don't exist when we don't see them. He's suggesting they exist as thoughts in the universal mind, and they take form through our collective consciousness.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Ugh.
How can the world we see and touch be an illusion?
Think about this example he uses. He talks about this being that weighs like 300 tons per cubic inch, super dense. And because of that density, this being, it wouldn't be able to perceive a chair because the spaces between the atoms of the chair would be too vast for it to even register.
So to this super dense being, a chair doesn't even exist. Even though we can see it, we can sit on it.
Exactly. It shows how reality is relative to our perception. What we experience as solid and real could be totally different for another being with a different perspective.
Whoa. That's mind-blowing. It makes you wonder, what else we might be missing, what other parts of reality are hidden from us.
Well, and that's what Andersen argues. Our senses, while they're, essential for navigating this physical world, they actually limit our perception of reality. There might be so much more to existence than what we can, see, hear, touch, taste, smell.
Okay, so if we're like trapped in this limited perception, how do we break free? How do we expand our consciousness, experience a greater reality?
He talks about this idea of attunement. It's about, aligning ourselves with this universal mind, understanding that we're not alone, trusting in this power greater than ourselves.
It sounds kind of like the idea of like leaving it to God, right? Just letting go of worry and control and trusting the process, the flow.
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities, but it's not about, becoming passive, resigning to fate. It's about understanding that we're part of something much, much bigger and aligning with those universal laws to achieve our goals.
So it's about letting go of the illusion of like personal responsibility,
Right.
And trusting the wisdom of this universal mind to guide us.
Exactly. And Andersen warns against trying to micromanage the path to our goals. He says when we try to control every little detail, we often end up, creating obstacles and delays.
Makes sense. If we're like constantly pushing and forcing things, we might be missing out on opportunities, those synchronicities that the universe is like throwing our way.
Exactly. It's about trusting that the universe has a plan, even if we don't always understand it. He uses this great analogy of someone wanting to become an engineer. And he's like, if they were suddenly given the responsibility of building a bridge, without any training or experience, they would fail.
Right.
But if they hold on to that desire, trust the process, and, take the steps to prepare themselves, the universal mind will guide them, provide the opportunities they need to reach their goal.
So it's not about just sitting back and waiting for things to magically appear. It's about aligning our desires with the power of the universal mind and trusting that it'll deliver.
Yes. And when those things do manifest, Andersen really encourages us to recognize them as miracles, as proof that this universal mind is at work in our lives.
So it's not just about achieving the goal, but recognizing the power that helped us get there, being grateful for it. Andersen talks about gratitude too, right?
He does. He says that by appreciating all the good that comes into our lives, we're actually reinforcing those positive thought patterns and attracting even more abundance.
Like a positive feedback loop. The more grateful we are, the more we have to be grateful for.
Exactly. It's about creating that upward spiral.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Andersen talks about love as the most powerful force in the universe. But he's not talking about romantic love, right? It's something much deeper.
Definitely. He's talking about recognizing the spiritual unity of all things, understand that we're all interconnected, part of this one big consciousness.
And when we operate from that place of love, it's like we banish fear and negativity. It dissolves those prompters, right? The ones blocking our connection to the universal mind.
That's the idea. He suggests that true love, it involves recognizing the shared humanity in everyone, trusting that good will ultimately prevail, even in the face of negativity and challenges.
That sounds beautiful in theory, but how does that actually work in real life? How do we deal with difficult people or situations? Do we just ignore them and hope they go away?
Not quite. He actually cautions against hating or fighting negativity because that just, it just reinforces it. He says true love involves recognizing the shared humanity in everyone, trusting that good will ultimately prevail.
So it's about changing our perspective. Instead of fear and judgment, we choose understanding and compassion. even in tough situations, we can see the good and trust that the universe is inherently good.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift. By
Wow.
cultivating love and letting go of that negativity, we unlock our own potential and we contribute to a more harmonious world.
This is pretty mind-bending stuff. It's like he's giving us a whole new way of thinking, a new operating system for our minds.
He is, and it's not always, easy to install. It takes effort, dedication, and a willingness to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world. But the potential rewards are huge.
He's suggesting we can transform our lives, our health, our reality, just by changing the way we think.
Right, and he gives some amazing examples of this transformation in action. Like, there's this woman who cured her chronic headaches by changing her attitude towards her third child.
Yeah, she was feeling overwhelmed, resentful, and then she decided to see her daughter as a blessing. And her headaches just disappeared. It's like her perception actually healed her body.
It's a perfect example of the mind-body connection. Andersen is calling for a revolution in consciousness, a shift in our understanding of who we are and what we're capable of.
But with all this talk about, tapping into this incredible power, he never actually tells us the 3 magic words, does he?
Nope, he doesn't. It's the ultimate cliffhanger. But I think that's intentional. He's leaving it up to us to discover them, to unlock the secrets of the universal mind on our own terms.
He does give us some clues, though. He talks about the importance of love, recognizing our unity with a higher power, understanding that we're all, expressions of the divine.
And he keeps using that phrase, I am, throughout the book. He stresses how powerful those 2 words are. He says they represent the essence of our being, our connection to that universal mind.
And he even suggests that the 3 magic words might be, I am God.
Bold statement. He's basically saying that we're all divine beings, co-creators with the universe.
Mind-blowing, but it fits with his message of unity, recognizing that we're not separate from the source of all creation.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
What if we're all just scratching the surface of what's really possible?
Totally. Andersen really challenges us to, examine those deep-seated beliefs we have about ourselves and the world.
Yeah, to really question everything.
One thing that really stuck with me was his take on personal responsibility. But it wasn't the kind of responsibility we usually hear about, right?
No, not at all. He actually suggests that we should surrender personal responsibility. He says that trying to control every little thing in our lives, it's actually holding us back.
Right. It's like we're puppets trying to control our own strings. We think we're in charge, but, we're just creating more struggle for ourselves.
And he says that the key to true freedom and empowerment is to let go of those strings, to surrender to the guidance of the universal mind. But he's not saying we should become passive or, just accept whatever fate throws at us.
It's more about recognizing that we're not alone, that there's a higher intelligence guiding us if we're open to it.
Exactly. And that's where faith comes in. Andersen really stresses the importance of trusting in the process, even when we don't get it, even when things aren't going our way.
He uses that phrase, leaving it to God. It's like letting go of the need to micromanage everything and trusting that the universe, has our back.
Yeah, I love that phrase. And he also warns against, trying to predict or force outcomes. He believes that when we try to control the path too much, we actually end up creating more obstacles and delays.
He gives that example of the person who wants to be an engineer. He says if they were suddenly put in charge of building a bridge, with no training or experience, they'd obviously fail.
Right, of course.
But if they hold on to that desire, trust the process, and take the necessary steps to prepare themselves, the universal mind will, open doors for them. It'll provide the opportunities they need.
It's about putting in the work, but also surrendering to the bigger plan.
So it's not about sitting back and expecting things to just magically happen. It's about aligning our desires with the power of the universal mind and trusting that it'll, work things out in its own way.
And when those things do happen, Andersen encourages us to see them as miracles, as proof that this universal mind is at work in our lives.
It's like recognizing the magic, the synchronicities.
Exactly. And he also talks about gratitude, right?
Wow.
Appreciating the good things as they come.
Right, actively acknowledging the good.
Yeah, he says that by doing that, we actually reinforce those positive thought patterns and attract more abundance.
Like a positive feedback loop. The more gratitude we feel, the more we have to be grateful for.
Exactly.
For a book that's all about the power of the mind, Andersen spends a lot of time talking about illusion. What's he getting at there?
He's suggesting that what we perceive through our five senses might not be the whole story. He says our senses actually limit our understanding of reality.
Right, and I remember that example he uses, the being that weighs like 300 tons per cubic inch. Because it's so incredibly dense, this being wouldn't even be able to perceive something like a chair. The spaces between the atoms would be too big for it to register.
It's a crazy concept, but it shows how our perception of reality is relative. What we experience as solid and real could be completely different for another being with different senses or, a different level of awareness.
So he's saying there could be whole realms of existence that are like hidden from us.
That's exactly what he's saying. He believes there's so much more to existence than our senses can pick up.
It's like Plato's allegory of the cave, right? Where people are chained and can only see shadows on the wall. And they think that's reality.
Perfect analogy. Andersen is suggesting we might be living in a similar kind of cave, mistaking our limited sensory perception for the totality of reality.
Okay, so if we're stuck in this cave, how do we get out? How do we expand our consciousness and experience a greater reality?
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, about attuning ourselves to the universal mind, surrendering control and trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
So it's about shifting our perspective, letting go of our limited view of the world, and opening up to new possibilities.
Yes. And realizing that our current understanding of reality might just be the tip of the iceberg.
Andersen also gets into some pretty complex ideas about time. He even suggests that in the fourth dimension, time might not be linear. It could exist all at once.
Right. He draws on Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein proposed that time is relative to the observer, that it can actually slow down as you approach the speed of light.
So time might not be as fixed and unchanging as we think it is.
Exactly. It opens up the possibility that our perception of time as a straight line from past to present to future, that might be an illusion, a product of our limited perspective.
Wait, so you're saying that in some other dimension, past, present, and future are all happening at the same time?
It's a tough one to grasp, but Andersen seems to be saying that in the realm of the universal mind, time might work very differently. Maybe there's a level of reality where past, present, and future are all connected and accessible.
That makes you think about those premonitions or déjà vu experiences people have. What if those are glimpses into those other dimensions where time isn't linear? It's fascinating.
It really is. And it goes back to Andersen's idea that the physical world is a projection of thought. Maybe in the realm of the universal mind, time isn't a constraint in the same way it is here.
This is all pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
How does Andersen tie all of these ideas together? What's the core message he's trying to get across?
I think the main theme of Three Magic Words is that we are not separate from the universe, from the universal mind, or from each other. We're all connected. We're all part of one big consciousness.
And by understanding that unity, by attuning ourselves to the universal mind, we can unlock our true potential and experience a life of abundance, health, and fulfillment.
Exactly. But he also says that it's not an easy path, It requires discipline, faith, and a willingness to challenge those deep-seated beliefs about ourselves and the world.
It's about letting go of fear, embracing love, and trusting in the goodness of the universe.
Right. He's calling for a revolution in consciousness, a shift in how we understand who we are and what we're capable of.
I'm really curious about those examples of transformation that he talks about. Can you share a few? I'd love to hear how people have actually applied these ideas in their own lives.
Sure. One that comes to mind is the woman who cured her chronic headaches by changing her attitude towards her third child. She had been feeling overwhelmed and resentful. But then she made a conscious effort to see her daughter as a blessing, and her headaches disappeared.
Wow. It's like her shift in perception literally healed her body.
It's a powerful reminder that our thoughts and beliefs have a huge impact on our physical well-being.
Absolutely. And Andersen shares a ton of other stories of people who overcame illness, achieved financial success, and found happiness and fulfillment by aligning their thoughts and beliefs with the power of the universal mind.
It's really inspiring to hear those stories. It gives you hope that real transformation is possible.
It does. But, for a lot of people, changing those deep-seated thought patterns can be a real struggle.
I agree. It's not easy. But Andersen does give some practical techniques for shifting our mindset. Have you ever heard of the 30-day mental diet?
I have, but I've never tried it. What is that exactly?
It's basically a challenge to consciously choose positive thoughts for 30 days straight. You commit to rejecting any negative thoughts that come up and replace them with positive affirmations and beliefs.
Sounds intense, like a mental workout.
Yeah.
But I can see how it could be effective in, like, rewiring those negative thought patterns.
It is. It takes discipline. And Andersen is very clear about that. He says you'll probably mess up, fall off track a few times, but you got to keep going until you gain mastery over your thoughts.
Like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger you get.
Exactly. Along with the 30-day mental diet, Andersen also talks about the importance of meditation. It's a way to quiet the mind, connect with the universal mind, and plant those positive seeds deep in our subconscious.
So it's about creating a space of stillness, inner peace, where we can connect with that deeper wisdom.
That's it. And from that place of stillness, we can start to reprogram our subconscious mind with positive beliefs and affirmations.
It's amazing to think about, all these seemingly random events. Maybe they're like orchestrated by a higher power. It really changes how you see the world.
It does. Makes you realize we're not just, passively watching our lives go by. We're active participants.
Yeah.
Our thoughts, beliefs, actions, it all plays a part in shaping our reality.
And it goes back to those 3 magic words that Andersen keeps hinting at but never, actually reveals. What if, and hear me out, what if those words are simply, I am God? It's a big statement, but it kind of sums up so much of what he's saying.
It really does, doesn't it? It's about recognizing our own, I guess you could say, divinity, our connection to the source of everything. And when we embrace that, truly believe that we are one with the divine, we tap into this power that can transform our lives and the world around us.
It's a powerful idea. Almost like we're stepping into our role as co-creators with the universe.
Exactly. We're not just, puppets on strings. We're active participants in this creative process. And by aligning ourselves with that power of the universal mind, we can manifest our desires, create a reality that reflects our highest vision.
So what does this all mean for our listener? What's the takeaway here?
I think the most important thing to remember is that each of us, every single person listening, has the power to create the life they want. We have the power to heal ourselves, to attract abundance, to experience joy and fulfillment beyond anything we can imagine.
But it all starts with our thoughts, right? We got to kind of cultivate that mindset of love, faith, possibility.
Absolutely. Andersen really emphasizes how important it is to choose our thoughts carefully. He even compares the subconscious mind to a fertile garden. Whatever we plant there, those are the seeds that are going to grow.
So if we're always focused on, lack and fear and limitation, well, those are the things that are going to show up in our lives.
Right. But if we focus on abundance, on love, on possibility, those are the seeds that'll take root and really flourish.
It sounds pretty straightforward, but, changing those deep-seated thought patterns, those habits, that's tough for a lot of people. Does Andersen offer any practical advice on how to actually make those changes?
He does. One of the most practical and powerful tools he talks about is the 30-day mental diet. It's a challenge to, consciously choose positive thoughts for 30 days straight, reject any negative thoughts that pop up.
Sounds like a serious commitment. But I can see how that would be really effective in rewiring those negative thought patterns.
It is. It's like a mental cleanse. And it takes discipline. Andersen doesn't try to hide that. He says, you'll probably slip up. You'll fall off track a few times. But the important thing is to keep going until you really master your thoughts.
Like training a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And along with the 30-day mental diet, Andersen also talks about meditation, how it can help quiet the mind, connect with that universal mind, and plant those positive seeds deep down.
So it's about creating that space, that stillness, that inner peace, where we can really connect with that deeper wisdom.
That's it. And from that place of stillness, we can start to reprogram our subconscious with positive beliefs, positive affirmations.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered some really, really mind-bending stuff. What are your final thoughts for our listener today?
I think the biggest takeaway is just that you have the power to create the life you want. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You're not limited by your past. You are a powerful creator. And by using these principles, the things we talked about from 3 magic words, you can manifest a reality beyond your wildest dreams.
So to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, keep questioning, keep believing in your own power.
And don't forget those 3 magic words, the ones Andersen keeps hinting at. I am God. Embrace that. Tap into the power of the universal mind and create a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. It's all there for you.
This deep dive has been a real journey, and we hope it's inspired you to unlock that incredible potential within yourself. Keep thinking big, keep believing in yourself, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.